that for me, it's really about the fact that we are moving from an economy and a culture and a society of extraction to one of contribution. As we just heard in this talk, right, when someone was living in that place of extraction, it actually didn't feel so great, right? You kind of realize that there's actually not an authenticity there, and really extraction for me is about how much you can hold on to, how many resources you can somehow harness, how much energy you can sort of extract from everyone else, how much value you can control. I see it with businesses over and over and over again. And the invitation we give to them is to think about it through the lens of contribution. What can you, it's the same exact widget, right? You can make the exact same frozen meal, you can make the exact same tire, you can make the exact same piece of software, but the intent that you bring behind it changes everything. And when you're in a place of contribution, you have so much more courage, because now you're not just doing it based on your own value, your own extraction, right? And what it is that you get to get from it, but you get to now realize that you're actually serving and giving something huge back to the world. Does that feel right? Now, it's easy to come up here and sort of like, pontificate about that, which is super fun. But I'll give you an example from the real world. This did happen, and I'll tell you first a corporate example, and then I'll tell you a personal example. The corporate one's easier to talk about. This is about a big, huge food company that every single one of you have purchased a product from somewhere in the past, and probably then stopped purchasing a product from sometime in the most recent future because you somehow didn't trust the integrity of the food. There was something about it that wasn't really quite right for you. And they were worried about whether their business was going down and wanted to understand how to get people to buy more of their product. Spent a lot of time chatting with them about all kinds of things, interviewed all the senior stakeholders and senior leaders who are all, by the way, really good people, right? And tried to figure out why they'd made really poor choices in denigrating the quality of their products over those last 10 years. And this was sort of the list, right? They were operating on the left-hand side from these set of expectations. They needed to be consistent and they needed to be sure. They researched the heck out of everything. They needed to be autonomous because they're a big, huge, strong company. They needed to be thorough. They needed to be definitive leaders, make sure they were really clear. They had to be authoritative. They had a really strong process that they were super proud of. And at the end of the day, it was all driving toward the idea of being able to consistently drive a transaction, right? It was over and over again. We can guarantee that we're going to drive this transaction. It was an extraction sort of methodology until it didn't work. So in the food world, we've explained to them that actually there's a whole different set of operating principles. And what the future needs and expects from you is actually quite different. It's about asking you to be responsive. Right? If I need gluten-free products, please don't tell me it's going to take 5 years to make gluten-free products. I actually would love to have them now. Right? We need you to be nimble. We still want you to be leaders, but we want you to be dynamic, adaptive leaders. We want you to have a sense of not just process, but purpose, and not just authority, but belief. There's a whole different kind of operating system that when you're in a place of contribution, it opens up for you. And that leads then to trust. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't get the transaction, right? But don't you want to buy the brands that you trust and that you love, not just the ones that are trying to sell you something. So again, this is the exact same line of products, but done through this lens, it opened up a completely different opportunity for them to start to get to the courage to change their products, to upgrade their products, to lead their retailers, to change the vocabulary on their campus, to build different buildings on their campus, to treat the employees as partners, and open up this whole conversation around trust and co-collaboration on the campus. It was really quite phenomenal to see. So I felt like, okay, at least it works for companies, right? And it does work with leaders. I work with often big CEOs and CMOs and those kinds of folks who also have to get to that place of recognizing that even just because they stepped into that big, huge spotlight doesn't mean their work is done. If anything, it requires more courage than ever to really sort of take those leaps. But last December, I was actually at an event that was put on by another thought leader group. And I got to watch some of the most extraordinary speakers in the world talk about where the world is going, the future is. And I remember looking at the stage thinking, gosh, like, what does it take to get there? Like, I would love to be one of those folks. Like, what does it take? And I had my own epiphany. I'm like, oh, I'm an extractor. I'm not a contributor. I take this knowledge from all of you, right, that I'm able to often run into as speakers or in various communities that I'm a part of, and I take all that and I repackage it and I bring it to my clients and say, hey, here's how to go. But I don't give any content back to the world. I haven't written a book. I don't write a blog. I barely tweet. Like, I keep it all here. And I thought, that is actually not so great. And I would argue that the reason I hadn't done any of those things before is because I felt a little shy, right? Like, who really wants to hear from me? Like, I'm proud of the work that I do, and I'm really excited about these stories that we get to tell, but I was kind of a little bit on the, sort of feeling like I was extracting attention from people and not realizing actually that I could contribute a great deal by being able to share some of these stories that we have been able to learn and bump into. So I haven't done it yet, but at some point I will start a blog. And I will treat it a little bit more generously because I realize that part of it is I also want to be part of the contributing economy, not just the extraction economy.